Good morning and welcome to the Maintaining Sanity podcast. I'm your host, author and therapist, Isaac Huddleston, here with my best friend, author and therapist extraordinaire, Eugena Lomax. Make some noise for us.
I was trying to come in very softly today. The weather is very Rick Rockish. And go ahead and edit that one, Marlon. Thank you.
We'll get that out of there for you. So we have a special guest today, and I'm allow her to
very special
herself. Mm-hmm. But before you introduce yourself and tell our listeners who you are, we got to ask the question: how have you maintained your sanity, Kimberly? I'm sorry, Kim.
Oh,
I don't want no smoke. I don't want no smoke. You from VA, and
you already know. Look,
Pusha T, and the rest of the clips have made me very afraid of Virginia. So I want.
We're gonna work through that.
Why you like, no, Virginia, we're a safe space. We got a beach. We ain't got no beach.
Lovers. Virginia is
that is true.
There we go. Well, Kim, if you don't mind, how have you maintained your sanity? What have you done to hold it all together?
Oh, not answering the phone when people called, leaning into boundaries. My goodness, that is how I maintain my sanity this week for myself, maintaining, my sanity with having boundaries with my clients, and extending myself grace. I think that is so important for me. I preach that to my clients, so I try to preach that to myself too. It's easier said than done, but definitely extending myself grace and setting some boundaries.
Okay. I think those are awesome, and she just came on our show and made us look bad, but it's cool. It's cool. I do have a question though, because something you said I found very intriguing, and that's about leaning into the boundaries. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of people struggle with that because I don't know. What do you think? What is the struggle with boundaries?
Boundaries are uncomfortable for us, right? I always say that, setting boundaries and enforcing boundaries are more so about us as opposed to our clients or, family members or whomever, right? It's
right.
Like, I have to stick to this for other people to understand that I'm serious. So it's like, that part is uncomfortable. So I think that's the biggest thing for people is holding ourselves accountable.
Woo.
I like it, and I support it.
Shoot. That's all I'm saying.
Got you. And so, Kim, tell our listeners who you are, and I'm gonna give just a bit of a backstory on how this connection even kind of took place. I was, as always, looking on the internet trying to find like-minded people, like-minded energy, and I was wanting to find a therapist that our audience could identify with, and a topic that comes up in probably 90% of my sessions, things to do with sex or things to do with intimacy. So I was looking for a sex therapist, and came across your page, and you're located in Virginia, and so that's kind of how this interview kind of took place. I just read your site, liked it, liked the energy that you was putting out, like what you were saying.
Yeah, your site is nice.
Mm-hmm. Facts.
Thank you.
It is nice. So you stalked her? Is what you're saying? Like that's how we got this. I mean, I don't care. Hey, I don't care how it goes into the basket. It still counts as 2 points. Just one. Yeah, thank you. I
was just about to say how sometimes the internet can be all creepy and weird with all this stuff, and this is a positive thing where like-minded individual intellectuals can meet and discuss things, and then here you go, someone. You're creepy. No, I utilize the internet for what it's designed for.
Absolutely.
We can find like-minded people, share some thoughts, conversations. It's something that's important to our clientele, and also she has an amazing skill set. So, Kim, can you tell us about you and what it is that you do?
Hello, everybody. So I'm Kimberly. I go by Kim. That's okay. I'm from Virginia. I'm a licensed professional counselor. I am located in Northern Virginia. My practice is completely virtual. So I see clients from the Hampton Roads area, Western Virginia, of course, Northern Virginia. I specialize in sex therapy. I've been specializing in sex therapy for almost 2 years. I can't believe it. Wow,
Hey,
time is
hey,
flying.
what is there a specific noise you want after you say something very like awesome? Because we could put that in. So, like you just said, that we need a ding.
A round of applause,
Oh,
a good A, whatever feels good.
okay. You know what? No one has asked for a good A, so that's what we
I
got
like
you.
that.
Say
I like
less.
that. Thank you. Thank
Yes.
you.
Uh, what exactly is sex therapy?
So, sex therapy is not watching people have sex. Like, I just want that to be
What?
clear. Because,
You don't watch?
I don't watch, right? Like, we do all the things in preparation and then it's like, go off, be great. Um, but sex therapy primarily focuses on performance anxiety for some people, sexual dysfunction, a lot of people who have pain during sex, um, premature ejaculation that comes up a lot. So helping people work through these challenges, a difference in libido with partners, that's definitely a part of sex therapy as well. But talking through, getting connected to the body in a way in which you are able to address the challenges. So I always tell people sex starts outside the bedroom. So if you are having some challenges in your relationship when it comes to communication or lack of trust. That's a big thing. Sex requires vulnerability. If those things are present in your relationship, it's going to trickle over to the bedroom. So we got to work on those things and get you back on track to get you to a place where you want to be sexually, not where society says you have to be, but where you want to be. And that's the most important part for me.
I think you brought up a lot of great points, and I want us
A
to go in
lot.
a lot of different directions. But kind of before we get there, the name of
Mhm.
your I'm sorry, you said the name of your practice is what again?
Transformation Space Therapeutic Services. So I
Okay,
work with
transformation.
individuals and couples.
Got you. And I know that you have a newsletter that you do monthly, and I
Mhm.
signed up for the newsletter. I want to support your brand.
Yay!
I definitely want
Thank you.
information emailed to me about sex. So
Shout out.
thank you. Send me information. Help me become a better professional. But no, I thought so. I know you say you're practicing in Virginia,
Hmm.
um, but anybody can sign up for your newsletter. Anybody can follow your page, and even though
Absolutely.
okay, okay, well I just
Yeah,
want
for sure.
go ahead, Carol. I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
No, go ahead, please. Please go ahead.
So when you speak about some of the things you talked about was sex doesn't begin in the bedroom. Can you kind of expound on that a bit more? Because I say this a lot that a lot of times in culture, well, let me not say a lot. There are some tropes in culture where people feel like sex should be what you see in pornos, where you just walk in a
Mm-hmm.
room and then it's just like, let's get at it, let's go, and that's not intimacy. That's a performance by a That's a pornographic film with a
Hmm.
producer, editor takes. So that's not real life. So can you walk us through when
Absolutely.
you say it doesn't begin in the bedroom? Where does the intimacy kind of start?
Yes. So intimacy can start with just embracing your partner, right? With a hello, a good morning, checking in, that emotional connection. A lot of people require that in order to even allow their minds to go to being physical. So when I say sex starts outside the bedroom, what are those conversations like with your partner? What are those non-demand sexual touches like? So what's the holding hands, the hugging, the kisses? I challenge some of my clients to do the 6 second kiss, right? Because I think that oftentimes when we greet our partners, it's just a quick peck and you're moving on, right?
Mm.
But really engage with your partner. 6 seconds is a long time when you think about kissing. I don't think most people think about it like that, but it's a long time. So just leaning into ways in which you can be connected to allow energy and space to move for you, where you can move on to sex, where it's easier to transition to sex. Because you're right, real life is not a porno, right? And I tell people all the time that it is entertainment and we need to think of it as that. Can it teach us a few things? Yeah, sometimes. You know.
I feel I think we just got the name for this episode, and that is "Real Life is Not a Porno."
There we go.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know what? Shout out to the people whose real sex lives are like porno. Do your thing. But for the average Joe, it's not, and that's okay, right? Majority of people need a little engagement to even get there, right? You need that
Right.
connection, you need that touch. It's not just what you see when you walk in a room and you start ripping your clothes off. Most people have that responsive desire in which they need to be romanced a little bit. They need to have closeness with their partners to even, transition on to sex.
So I have a question for both of you guys because we normally don't have clinicians on the show. So I'm like, as we say in St. Louis, I'm hella excited. So I'm just gonna throw this out to both of you guys so I can figure out if I'm a genius or not. But I tell teammates all the time that sex is a need. Like it's a basic human need. And I feel like that is like not thought of in that manner. And so I just want to get both y'all thoughts on that. Am I right? Am I wrong? Like, validate me, guys. Validate me. Thank you.
Well, no, I'll go ahead, Kim. You start.
I was gonna say yeah, right? Like, it's personalized for everybody. So some people may need a little more, some people may need a little less. And that is absolutely okay. I feel like just like majority of the things we experience in life is on a spectrum and sex is one of those things. So it kind of ebbs and flows. So sometimes you may want more, sometimes you may want less, but it's certainly a need and it's okay to fulfill that need and allow yourself to experience that pleasure.
Got you. And I know one of the things that I see oftentimes when I'm doing couples counseling, not to be sexist, but a lot of times I'm seeing that men are wanting more physical intimacy and women are wanting more emotional intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's it's kind of like this push and pull where I'm seeing if I'm not getting my emotional needs met, then you're not getting your physical needs met. And this is all you want is physical from me, and trying to come up and get them to understand the communication, being specific when you're communicating your needs. Like no one is tasked with being a mind reader. So communicating, I need intimacy with you. I need this connection with you. And it kind of takes the romance out of, I know culture, we're so romanticized, like, oh, we have to be swept off our feet. But also just having a conversation and saying, maybe we wake up in the morning, hey, I've really been feeling disconnected from you. Do you think maybe we can connect tonight? You kind of set the stage in a little bit to say, all right, and now you can kind of flirt with it and kind of work up to it. So it's like, all right, we've talked about it. Now we kind of say, hey, this is what's going to happen tonight, right? So you kind of talk about it. But I don't know, Eugene. So yes, you're a genius. That question doesn't.
Thank you. Thank you.
You asking the question doesn't change that for me. I definitely know that you're amazing. But no, I just see sometimes the things that men, in couples counseling, I'm seeing traditionally, not always. I'm not trying to stereotype anyone, but traditionally with the clients I see, this is kind of what I'm saying the most of what men are saying and what women are saying. But I don't know. So Eugenia, you had a different thought.
No, I just had a question that I kind of want to like tag on to that question. So like if Kim thought she wasn't coming here to work, she's wrong. I mean, we are going to work. No, so with that, I'd like to, if you could kind of maybe also expound on the difference in sex drives. Like, I think that people feel like if we are a couple, then we instantly have the same sex drive. And that I know that that's not true. So I just wanted to kind of, because that interconnects with what kind of Isaac was saying.
I think that we have to be realistic with ourselves and acknowledge that physiologically we are built different, right? The typical male, typical female body is just chemically is different, and that's okay. Um, what comes with that though is people who are male centered, right? Who identify as male, who has though that testosterone difference than what we as typical women have. It can definitely lead to them wanting, desiring more sex. Is that the case all the time? No, right? Because I'm not gonna put everybody in a box. But for one, we have to acknowledge that by itself. And then also, it's not like that. I think a lot of people talk about everything, right? We talk about children, we talk about finances, we talk about where we want to live, we talk about what we want, our day-to-day lives to look like when we're in a relationship, but sex is not one of those things that people talk about. So people realize years into their relationship, that dang, you want sex all the time, but I don't want it this much, and now it leads to tension, right? And then you just kind of push it to the side, push it to the side. And at some point you have to address it. And I think that speaks to what you're seeing a lot with your couples, Isaac, is that people aren't talking about these things from the beginning. Or it's like, oh, well, they'll change. They'll change. That's the
That
thing.
it's that part right there. That part
Mhm.
right there. They will change. A lot of people go into relationships thinking that I'm the one. I'm the one that's going to get this person to change. Like, sure, they've eaten
Mhm.
hamburgers their whole life, but now that they with me, we doing tofu. Like, no, most times you're that person is that's what they, what they enjoy and that's what they like. And it doesn't matter. It's not saying that they don't love you per se. It's just saying that
Yeah.
that's just not the need they have.
Absolutely. And I think that leaning into it as opposed to trying to fight it makes it an easier process to overcome. And I tell people all the time, if you are in this committed relationship, then this is something that both of you have to work on. It's not, oh, that's your problem. That's not my problem. No, this is a challenge that we both are having. It's us against the issue as opposed to I'm gonna sit here and watch you deal with it and then call me when you're done. No, that's not how it's gonna work.
Oh, that's an
It's something
awesome
that you
part.
it is, and something that you both brought up that I think is truly important, the communication piece. And so I always say healthy relationships require us to have uncomfortable conversations. So when you think back to let's just talk about the birds and the bees. For most of us, that was a really uncomfortable conversation we had with our parents. And some of us may not even had
I was gonna say
Listen.
it. Right? So
I was gonna say I know some people that the conversation was, "Here's this shot. Good luck." Like, so a lot of people, especially in Black culture, I say we don't talk about sex even
Mm-hmm.
more than other cultures. It's
Mm-hmm.
very like I don't want to say shunned upon, but it's just uncomfortable topic, I guess.
yeah, right. So when you have that dynamic, so that's your beginning, so to speak. Not, but I mean, it's like that's our introduction to puberty, into reproduction, etc. And if it was a conversation that you didn't have with the people that was most trusted to you, your parents, and so now it's kind of like this secret taboo thing where we're getting information off the back of the school bus, or I'm watching these
Yes.
pornographs, or I'm watching pornos, and now this is my blueprint. Like, okay, this is what I need to be doing. This is how it should be going. When it's like,
Yeah.
no, we can talk about it, and I agree. It's I don't. It's such a tough conversation. I'm a therapist, but having these conversations with my kids, it's like, when do you have a conversation? How in depth do you go into it? And so sometimes
Yeah.
parents struggle with this, but I agree that we should be having conversations with our kids and try to normalize the process and instill in them this is a healthy place to where we can talk about it. It's not this is biological. This is human nature. We should be having these conversations, but most of us are started off with like, "Oh, mom's coming in to tell me about
Right.
where babies come
Yeah.
from."
Well,
Right?
yeah, something I was thinking about is that a lot of times when we are learning about it, about sex, intimacy, any of those things, we're automatically pitted against the opposite sex, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because what are we telling girls? All he wants is sex from you. You better protect that. Da 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 da. What do we
You
telling
should.
boys? All she wants is your money. Da 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 da. And so we, if you really think about it, a lot of us have went into sex thinking like either this is something I have to protect and hold, or like this is something that someone is not necessarily respecting about me. You know. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think you both made really good points. I think that especially when it comes to like the black and brown community, sex isn't something that's talked about. I ask all of my clients, especially who are coming for sex related challenges, how did you learn about sex? Who taught you about sex? And I can say 70 to 75% of them are like, I didn't have a talk with my parents. I had sex ed in school and that was it. Anything after that was, well, I had an older brother, right? I had an older cousin. My friends found their dad's magazines, VHS tapes, that type of thing, and that kind of led them um to sex. So that really was eye-opening for me, which led to me deciding to even specialize in sex therapy because it reminded me to tap into what was my experience with sex, right? What those around
Right.
me, other clinicians, friends, family, like what was their experience and how can we change it for the next generation moving forward, right? Because people are coming to me as parents. So just like you were saying, Isaac, what's your relationship with sex to even talk about it with your children? Are you
Right.
repeating the same cycles with your kids? Are we talking about consent? Are we talking about autonomy? Are we talking about boundaries? Because that comes with sex. So we're not having the sex conversation. When is the conversation about this is your body, this is how you govern it? Not this is what society tells you about what you're supposed to do with your body. So
Thank
that's
you.
so important.
That part right there, she's cooking. Like we need
Kim,
the pot
Kim,
sound
Kim
because
cooking. Kim is
she was
cooking.
like, I'm.
Yo, how
She
you govern your
said,
body? Okay, Kim. All right.
right. She just like, hey, from the VA. And so like I was just thinking of I was thinking about that with that part about the government of the body, and something that I have personally started trying to do, like with my the little nephews. I'm not going to make you hug me.
Oh,
You know,
yes.
that is
Hmm.
something that as kids we always had to do. You got to hug them, say hi, goodbye. Like,
Hmm.
I don't even know who this is. Like, why am I hugging? And so, so I just want to leave that there. I just had to say that because that grinds my gears, Isaac.
Oh my goodness. Your gears are grinding. No, no, no.
But that is a very good point, though. Like, I think back to all the times and it was like, go hug them, go say hi, right? And it's like, I don't want to. But what is that saying, right? What is that, instilling in us?
In
Even if
us,
you're
yes, and it's
uncomfortable, still do it because someone told you to or it's expected of you.
mm. So how does that show up in the sex world, Kim? Like that trope right there.
The trope of do it because someone told you to, or
Even though it's uncomfortable, you go ahead and do it.
um with me and my clients, I start out with autonomy. I take it back because some people didn't get that. They didn't get that right. So when are you free? Right? What's your schedule like? These are my hours. This is the time block. What works for you? Right? So I like
Right.
to start there to encourage people to lean into that. Lean into it with family members. Lean into it with your partners, right? Just because you're with somebody does not mean that they have all rights to you at any time that they want to, right?
That's a fact.
So
That's
it's
a fact.
okay to set that healthy boundary. It's okay to say no, right? And we're gonna work through the feelings of shame and guilt when it comes up because it will. It will,
Yeah.
especially if that's not your norm.
I want to
I
say
think that's
something, but I mean, the mic is hot right now. The mic is hot right now. Like, people, you are getting all of this for free. Check us out at www, maybe, insanitypodcast.com. Leave us an email at show@insanitypodcast.com. If you can think of a question that you have for Kim, that you're she's willing to answer. So email us or put it on our socials, and we will ensure that she comes back and she's going to answer some questions from you guys. So yeah.
Something that you said I thought was a really when you all was talking about intimacy. I tell my teammates, tell my clients all the time that sex in your teens is going to be different than intimacy in your 20s. Sex in your 20s is going to be different than in your 30s and in your 40s, et cetera, et cetera. And so being in tune with yourself and realizing that your needs and your body and things change is extremely important. Like how in tune you are with yourself and practicing that self-love. Let me find out what my body is like. Let me figure out where my erogenous zones are, what I like, what I don't like, because when I was a teenager, it was just like, yeah, I'm just so happy that this is happening. Look what I can do.
Okay, first off,
you don't like my celebratory intimacy.
Well, first off, you said erogenous, and I was like, whoa, somebody really prepared for this interview. Like, somebody really prepared. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you, homie. Like, you brought it. Like, this whole episode right now is just like fire after fire. It's amazing. So, yeah, erogenous zone. I don't know why that cracked me up.
But I have a question, Kim. Mm-hmm. So, we were kind of talking about tropes. So, sometimes I've seen that it has been okay, normalized that women can use sex toys, the rolls, vibrators, what have you. Mm-hmm. But then there's like this dark cloud that surrounds men. If you say, hey, I got this inflatable blow up Britney, I got the Rachel blow up dial.
Right? Not Britney.
I got Rachel the blow up dial. So it's like, oh no, you're not a man. And it's like when we were talking about different, sex drives. So if my sex drive is higher than yours, and even with the communication, it's that needs not being met. How do you go about discussing sex toys? Or because sometimes there are tropes, and I rarely hear women say, well, yeah, you should get a sex toy because I may be not meeting that need of yours or what have you. Mm-hmm. What do you say to that? How do you kind of navigate through those things?
So I always tell people that sex toys aren't a replacement for your partner, right? It enhances your sexual experience. Now, what you do when you by yourself, because that's solo time, I encourage people, even if you're in a relationship, you are still entitled to solo sex. That is your right. That is your body. Enjoy it, experience pleasure how you want to. But those things enhance your sexual experience with your partners, like the rolls, like a dildo, like any type of sex toy. But I will say that societal wise, there is some shame around those blow up dolls, right? Let's call it what it is. There is some shame around that. I
feel like there was a blow up doll on like every 90s episode. Like every show had an episode where there was a blow up doll. Like, sorry, just had to throw that out there.
And then you have like the pocket vaginas. I don't want to bust out the P word on y'all podcast. So,
she's bringing it.
So those things exist, and I think that if you have a problem with your partner using it, it's less about your partner and more about you. You need to check yourself and how you're feeling about it, because it's unfair to allow that double standard to come into your relationship. If you have your roles and you have your things, why can't your partner have the things that they enjoy that bring them pleasure? So that's kind of how I like to address it with people, because what is that creating? That's creating a divide, right? If you're coming in with this double standard.
Wow. Like, once again, like, I don't even know what question to ask that would make it so that, yeah, I do have one though.
Yes.
So how we were talking earlier before, the show started about, and it came up about accountability. And so,
Mm-hmm.
like, is there any techniques or strategies you have that you give some of your teammates as far as how to be more accountable in, in their sex lives or with their sex lives?
Mm. So I like people to know and understand what they like and what they don't like, right? So I have people do
Hmm.
a sexual boundaries assessment from the very beginning. What you like, what you don't like, because our sexual experience is our responsibility, right? It's not our partners. We have
That's
to.
important.
Oh,
No, we're not gonna
oh,
gloss over that.
oh,
Hold on, Kim. Hold on. We not glossing. You gotta run it back. Spin it back. Like say that again. Say that
Our
again. That
sexual experience is our responsibility, right? We can't
oh.
expect our partner to automatically know what we like, what we don't like. We have to discover that for ourselves. So sexual exploration is so important. So if we want to have a good time in the bedroom, we got to know that. We have to communicate that. We have to, if there's a challenge around that, we got to work with our partners around it. We can't just be like, well, this is what I like, or they got to figure it out. That's very much unfair, right? You're putting them at a disadvantage already. So where is that going to get you in the end?
Not where you want to be. Not where
Not
you want
where
to
you
be,
want
I'm
to
sure.
be, right? Exactly. Now you have more issues. Now now you're frustrated, and that's going to trickle over to the management of your home if you have kids, all those things, because you're just annoyed with your partner.
Hmm.
right. And I think that's a great point because it's unrealistic that a partner can meet all of our needs all of the time.
Mm.
So it's like
Yes.
having that conversation and saying, I can't make you happy. I can enhance your happiness. So I got to look internally first to see like what brings me happiness, what brings me joy. Because even when we're talking about intimacy, and I'll have teammates say, well, I've seen this person do this, or this has been my experience from the past. That's great that you're talking about those or what you've seen. So
Hmm.
let's talk to your partner about it because maybe they want to work on their skill set, but they have never been feeling like they've given the grace or the atmosphere to embrace their sexuality. Because some of us have been told, don't talk about sex and hold it all in. So even when we get with our
Mm.
partners, it's like we're still insecure. We're sitting back waiting for our partner to please us versus, and how can I please myself? What feels good to me? And then my partner
Hmm.
can enhance those, what I'm, that this pleasure versus you make me happy, you please me. But I feel like that's a trope in culture in society that man, I'm speaking about heteronormative relationships. I'm not trying to exclude anyone, but I'm just
Right.
speaking from that platform, um, from that space. But it's in cultures a lot of times is this person can save me, this person can complete me, and it's like if I can complete
Mm.
you, that means you're done growing, and I'm not done growing. Like I'm a work in
Hmm.
progress. I got a long way to go.
Whoa,
I
I
got a long,
see you.
I got a long way to
I
go.
Right.
see you. Claim that.
So,
Hey, claim that growth, brother. I love it.
right, right. But I just think I think communication is such a huge part, and if we can normalize having those conversations and talking about what our experience has been, and something you brought up, Kim, I ask teammates all the time. I ask them, "Tell me about your first experience with sex. Not that you actually had sex, that you saw sex or that you knew about it." And sometimes people
Hmm.
say, "Oh, well,
Hmm.
I used to hear such and such," or it was always a taboo, sneaky type thing, and so we've been trying to protect ourselves from intimacy for so long that we sometimes are afraid to even talk about it now.
Right, absolutely. And I think you brought up a good point, with just because it worked in a last relationship does not mean it's gonna work for this new partner. Like, do you want somebody to treat you how they treated their last partner? Do you want somebody to do the same things to you that they did to their last partner? No, because that doesn't work for you. And that's okay.
Yeah. So I also question for both of you guys. I'm gonna Serena Williams this over the tennis court to you. But what are some ways that you think non-sexual ways that couples can build intimacy? Because a lot of people think when you say intimacy, it equals sex, and those are two
Mm-mm.
different things. So I'm gonna hang up and listen.
Well, you know what? Absolutely. And I like to start, working with people around the idea that sex and intimacy are different. because if we lump it all together, it can get real murky and it doesn't feel good for people who have like challenges around having sex, right? Who may be desiring more intimacy. And if your partner lumps it all together, it can be challenging to communicate that. So I like to have couples spend at least minimum, I tell them minimum 3 days a week, 15 minutes together. If you can do more, great. But just talking about your relationship. I think that we think we check in more with our partners than what we really do. We're not having meaningful conversations, right? It's very passing. So sit down, uninterrupted, turn off the TV, put those phones away. I love technology, but it can be a major distraction in our relationships. It almost becomes a third person. So,
Whoa.
so remove those things. Really engage with your partner. Small things. Take a walk, right? You don't have to do a lot. You don't have to spend a lot of money. Um, if you have a favorite show, cool. I give couples books to read. And when I say read together, I mean like I want y'all cuddled up on the couch,
Mm.
reading together, talking about what you're reading, right? To create that intimacy, right? Those 6-second kisses, things outside of the bedroom, cook together. What does that look like? So that's how I like to encourage people to be intimate with one another. And then I also purchased the Adventure Challenge books. I think they're great. It's a great resource. A little on the pricey side, so I just have clients if they're like at a loss as to what to do. We'll pick something out of the book just to say, okay, one was like make a comic script about our relationship. I thought that was cute. Who
Mm.
thought with that, right? But you're spending time with your partner, and that's what's most important outside of the bedroom.
Right.
Sorry, that was just another fire. That, in case you guys are wondering, that's my fire sound.
That I think you brought up a lot of great points, and even with massages are a great way to connect. So we can just giving your partner a massage, a deep massage, and just talking while you're giving a massage. So this doesn't even have to be in the bedroom. We can be sitting on the couch watching our favorite show. We can be sitting on the couch and I can give you a massage. I can massage your feet, or you can massage my shoulders, or what have you. But that's something that create intimacy, and you're asking for, and being intentional with asking for your undivided attention. When are you free? Where I have your undivided attention. So that's distraction free, without the kids, without the TV, without the dog, whatever. Just your undivided attention, and let's be intentional with that. Some other things I've seen work. Like you said, not trying to loosen the mood, because sometimes people go into it with so much anxiety where I have to please this person, I have to do this, and are they liking it? And trying to get out your head by talking about, making it fun, making it exciting. Let's laugh about it. I've had couples watch comedic pornography, something that's just silly.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that. Is that really a genre? Because I did.
It is. Oh, it is. It is. It is.
Comedic porn. Oh my god, that's so funny.
It's like a comedy, and then all of a sudden they go
bow chicka wow wow. That's mine.
But I've heard people say, but just trying to normalize, because sometimes people, they have so much anxiety and so much tension with regards to, am I doing this right? I don't, and so if you can normalize it, make it funny, laugh at it, then it kind of takes away some of it's not as intimidating now, because now we're sitting back laughing at, oh, look at this, person doing this, and they're acting
bow chicka wow wow. Yeah.
I don't know why I don't like that sound. Bow.
It's giving like 70s porn.
Yes. Kim, thank you for being on my wavelength. I appreciate it. That's why I'm happy you're here. Something that really has kind of stuck out with me is basically, I kind of hear you saying that sex is a reflection of what folks have going on in their relationships sometimes, as far as, it's just like a magnifier per se.
Yeah.
And so I was wondering, how do you tackle the issue of people weaponizing sex?
You know, that's always a tricky place because some people have the insight that they are, and then some people don't.
Oh,
So trying to figure out, in most cases, if we're talking about heteronormative relationships, it's typically women who do this, whether it's intentional or unintentional. I see men do it too, but it's mainly the woman who's like holding out, for lack of better
right.
words, for whatever reason. So it's about exploring, like, what are your barriers? What are your challenges around being intimate with your partner? In most situations, it's something emotional when that
Mm.
comes up. So let's work through those feelings and emotions, right? Let's talk about what has happened to get you here. Let's talk about how you can move forward, right? What can your partner do? How can you be better supported to kind of work through, you know, your feelings of leading to you weaponizing sex?
Spicy but good. Yes, that was a very good answer. I liked it.
It really was a great answer. When you see in your practice, in your profession, um, men who may have been experienced sexual abuse, how they display that abuse in adulthood can be different from women. I mean, there is no blueprints in how anybody deals with any type of abuse or trauma.
Mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm,
sometimes, as therapists, we're trained to kind of look at what's behind the behavior. So we don't just look at what you're doing. We're looking at how did we get,
mm-hmm,
like, why are you doing this behavior? Where did this come from? So we kind of look
mm-hmm,
behind the scene where the outside world just look at the behavior like, oh my God, this will have you. So when you're treating a man who may have been abused, well, I guess I'll leave that as the question. What are some techniques that you may use? Obviously, it's not one size fit all, but I would guess that if you're dealing with a man who may have some intimacy issues in a couples therapy session, what's kind of your technique to approach it? Because I feel like it's not talked about men who have been abused and some of the effects or things that they
mm-hmm.
have done because of this abuse. So they have developed a whole way to protect themselves or a whole way to communicate
Try
through
to get
because
their
of this
power back through sex. Yeah.
through sex.
Mhm,
Mm.
So
mhm.
what are some techniques or what are some ways in which you may approach that? And I know it's obviously you have to do an assessment. And, yeah, so I know it's more, we're trying to
Yeah.
simplify for the audience. I know it's way more complicated, but I want to bring it to you.
So the biggest challenge with men that I've experienced has been really identifying it as abuse, right? That's the toughest
That
part
part. That part.
because I think that, oh well, I was 13 and she was like 19 and that was just what happened. Okay, let's back up. How do we get there, right? Like, how was that experience for you? So I think just being able to help them identify and make that connection of it even being abuse, um, and then going from there to help them see the pattern of their behaviors from that moment to where they are now, and how they have internalized those things and how it shows up in their relationships, how it shows up in the way in which they view sex, all of
Yeah.
that.
And I just want to add to that. One thing that I have found too, when working with men who have some sexual trauma is if their offender or perpetrator was a male, sometimes they may struggle with,
Oh yeah.
and the sexuality
Hmm.
and so I just want to point out to anybody out there that, like, unfortunately our bodies are physiological. They're just going to do certain things, and that doesn't necessarily make you gay or not gay, homosexual, whatever. So, like, I just think that that's a misconception that a lot of abuse victims have, and it's a
Hmm.
reason that keeps them being secretive about it.
Hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. Um, and, sexual non-concordance is a thing, right? Where our bodies may respond when mentally that's not what we are
That
desiring.
was big. That was a big word. Can you run that back by us? I'm still learning.
Sexual non-concordance. That's essentially when our minds are like, no, 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 but physically our bodies are responding. So you may hear oftentimes in rape victims are like, I didn't want to, but there was still like some vaginal lubrication that happened, right? So it's, and again, to their perpetrator, it's like, well, I mean, their body was blah, 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 but they were still saying no. And that can be tough to even work through because it's like, my body betrayed me. So how do I move
Mm-hmm.
on from this? How can I trust my body now? So that's a journey in itself.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you um, giving some insight on that. It's a tough topic and a tough part of it to talk
Mm-hmm.
about. And like you said, it's so normalized in our culture where, like you said, if I was 9 years old and there was an older woman, and it's just like, oh, well, my goodness, you're great.
You're a
Look, that's
player.
you're a
Yeah.
player, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
taught all these things, in society about the conversations people have with men oftentimes regarding intimacy is not the same one that they have with their daughters regarding intimacy.
Yes.
Eugenia highlighted that earlier, and being able to own it is tough because to say, hey, yes, another person overpowered me as a man is like, oh my God, you were taking advantage. Like we're taught not to ever show weaknesses, and acknowledging that we've had some type of
Mm,
abuse is us admitting that we were weak at a moment, that we were vulnerable, that someone got the upper hand on us. So we don't talk about it, but it is abuse. You were 13, this person was 21. No, you were taken
Exactly.
advantage of emotionally.
yeah,
You could make
yeah.
that decision.
Yes. And let's call it what it is. That I think that is something that it really needs to be talked about. Let's
Mhm.
start calling things what they are. And sometimes when I'm working with teammates, that's tough for them because they say, oh, well, I was 16, he was 25. Okay, so you were abused. So, and they're like, what? No, well, I was a part of it. No, you weren't because you can't consent. 9-year-olds can't consent to anything.
Mhm.
And so that's just, I'm sorry, I was getting off on my soapbox. I'm going to chill out now, guys.
I appreciate you sharing that information, Kim. That is great and a tough topic to talk about. So
Very.
just just to be clear, anyone who may be struggling, you know, where can they find us, Eugenia? If they're looking for a therapist or trying to unpack some things, where is the best place for them to get some resources from us?
From us, they can go to the community resource page at www.insanitypodcast.com. We will also have Kim's socials up so you can follow her. And I mean, I don't know, everybody, she's been on fire today, guys. So if you have a question, I recommend you send it because I think she might send you back some wonderful knowledge.
And also,
Yes,
Kim,
absolutely.
you have a newsletter. Where can they find a newsletter to sign up for your newsletter?
Yes, so check out my website, www.transformationspaceTS.com. There you can find my services. Right now, I am only working with Virginia clients. So if you know someone, I believe in 6 degrees of separation. So if you know
All right.
someone who is in Virginia looking for a therapist, I am certainly available. And then on my website, you can check out my previous newsletters and be on the lookout for the next one.
Oh, that's awesome. We have one last question for you. How you answer this question could determine which one of us likes you the
Hmm.
most or not. Okay. So I want you to just really be thoughtful about this.
Okay.
How do you like your water? Ice cold or room temperature?
I'm a room temperature kind of girl.
Hey, 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 Kim is part of the team. Team Kim.
That's right. Hey, hey,
Thank you,
hey,
Kim.
Marlon. Marlon, can you play the ring, ring, ring sound? Because y'all are terrorists now.
Oh
You
my
guys are terrorists.
goodness. No, no, no.
Room temperature, yeah.
Well, Kim, we really appreciate you being here. And you
Absolutely.
awesome time. And so, if we're ever in Virginia, we definitely will look you up. We will stalk you.
Okay. I'll be prepared, ready to be stalked. It's cool. From you guys. From you
Yeah,
guys.
no, from us, from us, from us, from us. And you are now an official friend of the pod. Let's make sure we end with some
Hey.
hey.
For sure. For sure. Well, thanks
Thank you
again.
so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. I love this energy. You guys are great. So excited to see what you guys have next. So,
Appreciate you. Isaac, did we lose him? All right, let me